About half a decade ago, my father-in-law, Ken, approached me with excitement about a groundbreaking concept called structured water. He eagerly shared a YouTube video detailing the phenomenon and even demonstrated his homemade contraption filled with marbles designed for pouring water through to create structured water. While the intricacies of the water flowing through the marbles piqued my interest, the effort involved deterred me from trying it myself. Fast forward to this summer in sunny Florida, where my friends, Danny Hamilton and Nat Nidham, pulled out this beautiful, elegant wand and began stirring their water with it. I asked them what the heck they were doing, and they revealed they were structuring water with the Analemma wand from New Earth Technologies. And now, joining me on the podcast is the expert in all things structured water, Mario Brainovic, who is the CEO of New Earth Technologies. Mario is an entrepreneur, researcher, and a visionary in the field of health and wellness. For years, he ran a successful international advertising agency and a production house. He was always very passionate about health and wellness, about finding natural ways to heal, regenerate, and restore the delicate balance between body, mind, and spirit. This led him to establish a natural pharmaceutical company that successfully helped many people for years. After a while, he became very passionate about water. Realizing its extraordinary significance, he established New Earth Technologies, a company that offers the miracle of an Analemma water to the world. So welcome, Mario. I'm really excited to have you here to talk about what the heck structured water is.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me. It's really my pleasure to be here. And just, this is such an extraordinary topic and people are almost completely unaware of it. There are worlds hidden in water. And people need to hear about it because it really has a powerful effect on our overall health and wellness. So I'm super thrilled to be here and thank you for inviting me.
And to be excited about water, it's like we're such nerds, but I feel like water's taken for granted. We don't think about it, but the reality is there is not a lot of good quality water anymore coming to us. Like we're not drinking quality water. Tap water, bottled water, it's got its problems.
But there is one deeper thing, just to kind of explain to your audience the significance of it. When you look at it, 70% of our body mass is water, and that is like huge when you look at it. But when you look at it from the molecular point of view, 99% of our molecules are water. We're basically very clever H2O. That off the bat tells you there is something extraordinarily important about water.
Yeah.
Since 99% of our molecules are water. So our research clearly showed that water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. Great scientist Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah.
So water is at the very heart of what moves biology.
Yeah.
So to tell this little kind of backstory about the Analemma, like many years ago, founders, Dr. Clarker and Dov Zantinge, two Dutch scientists, they actually were very troubled with the state of the world. And to put it in a kind of weird way, but this was their mission, they wanted to find the secret to life. And they actually picked up a lab of famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Popp, who developed this technology of biophotons. So biophotons are these tiny particles of light. Every living thing exudes light. And Dr. Popp actually created a device that can capture every single biophoton. And you can measure the vitality of any living thing by the amount of light it exudes. So very soon in the research, Dr. Clarker and Dov Zantinge, they found that when you change water, biophoton emissions changed dramatically. We realized that water is the most fundamental level of our existence. When you change that, entire biology follows. And we actually did double-blind placebo-controlled studies, many of them now, which clearly show when you change the water, everything else starts to change, and pretty rapidly. So it really is a fascinating, really fascinating subject.
This makes me think about, because this is a podcast, we talk a lot about hormones on this podcast. And back in hunter-gatherer days, when we were living outside, being connected with Earth, women would cycle with the moon. And it's my understanding, and I think you're going to know more than this about this than I do, but it was my understanding it was because the moon moves and affects the water in our system, because the
Yes.
moon pulls the tide in. So there's like that, the moon does something with the ocean water, and then it also affects the water that's in our body. And women have more water than men do. Is that true?
Well, we're basically kind of close there.
Okay.
It's not that, but you're actually nailing it on the head here. Moon is, we're talking about electromagnetic energy.
Yeah.
Water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. I'm just going to jump in now into this early study that we did, which really blew our mind. So in the beginning, we were actually studying seeds, plant seeds. So we watered some with regular water and some with Analemma water. And we measured biophoton emissions to see what's going to happen. So the seeds that were watered with regular water, basically nothing changed. Everything stayed the same. But the seeds that were watered with Analemma water, we started seeing these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. We really didn't realize what was happening. It was like it was breathing in some way of form. And after a while, we realized that it followed the tides.
No. Wow.
So this
Oh my gosh.
particle of life got connected to the circadian rhythm of nature just by being exposed to Analemma water. That really, I mean, it kind of sounds simple, but the implications of that are really staggering. We are a much more complex organism than that tiny piece of light called seed. So for the first time, we realized that Analemma water connects you to your larger electromagnetic environment. It connects you to nature. You start flowing with it. In this day and age, we're all disconnected from ourselves, from everybody around it, from nature. And just by drinking the water, Analemma water, it connects you deeply to whatever is actually happening on a deeper scale in nature. So this was something that really blew our minds, and it really inspired us to kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper, and really down the rabbit hole we went.
Oh, no kidding. That just, that gives me shivers. And it's mine like that. It's just like magic. It's so cool to me. Oh, I love it that we forget how connected we are or should be to Earth. And it's been so long, I feel like, since I have been connected like that. Like, I live in nature. I'm very blessed for that. I'm outside a lot, but I still don't feel like I'm as connected as I should be. And there was times in my life where I lived in bare feet. I used to live in Mexico in this little tiny village where there was no street light, there's no electricity there. And I'd live in this little hut on the ocean for months. And I would have no more period pains, no more headaches, no more illness of any sort. I would lose weight effortlessly. My period would start to match with the moon and the tide. And that is the best I've ever felt health-wise in my life. And I would walk around in bare feet, live by candlelight with the ocean, sounds rocking me to sleep. And that just makes me think like how disconnected the majority of us are, especially for people who are living in cities right now, born and raised in the city. I've met people who have never gone camping before, and I'm just like, what? You're in your car.
You're actually touching on very important subject. We really believe that Mother Nature is the hidden voice of this project, because exactly because of what you just mentioned. People are totally disconnected, especially if they're living in the cities, and most people are actually living in the cities. They lose this connection to everything that is relevant in life.
Yeah.
So we believe that nature actually, through us, created something that can restore this connection.
Yes.
So just by drinking the water, you can actually connect to the nature. And it's like you're upgrading your entire operation system, so to speak.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned, 99% of our molecules are water. And this water is in this very particular state. It serves just like an antenna. So when you upgrade the water in your body, you're able to receive more, to be connected in a much deeper way. And that really has profound consequences. Not only for like physical health, we're talking about emotional health, we're talking about spirituality. Exactly. That's why we call this water conscious water, because we received thousands of emails. When people start drinking the water, something profoundly shifts by itself. People start changing their habits naturally. It just starts happening. And that's really profound thing to kind of witness.
Yes. Yeah. We better tell the listeners what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. So first, let's start. What does analemma mean, and what is structured water? The basics.
Okay, so yeah, the basics. Coming back to the basics. So we realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So H2O molecules in drinking water, they move chaotically, they crash into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of it. This chaos has a profound effect on our overall health and wellness, even though we're completely unaware of it. We found a way to bring order back into that chaos. Just to explain it in a very simple way so that people can understand. If you take a 5-watt bulb, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, which is a coherent form of light, it will drill a hole through your table. So it's the same light, but much more concentrated. It's the same thing with coherent water. We found a way to bring order back into that chaos. When you take the analemma and you swirl through the water, now we have other applications as well, but this is the first one that we came out with. When you swirl the analemma through the water, what happens is that every single H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the wand starts to mimic exactly the same structure which is inside the wand, what we call the mother water. H2O molecules start connecting into a liquid crystalline structure or liquid crystalline state. Through this particular process, water becomes alive. It actually becomes empowered and can do so much for health and wellness. And this is what we proved with double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. So it's not a woo-woo thing. We actually did hardcore scientific studies on it, on plants, on humans, and on animals. And results are very, very, very consistent. And we're going to jump in all of those.
We are.
Just so that people know the magic behind it.
Yes. So why is our water not structured anymore? And was it always before in hunter-gatherer times?
Yes. So water, usually when it goes through the rivers and creeks, it has this left and right vortexes. And these vortexes are actually bringing water into this particular state. But due to various environmental reasons, toxins, EMFs everywhere, that changed dramatically, actually. Dr. Clark and Dolph Zonting, our founders, they actually collected samples from all over the planet. And you can find this very special water in this natural state if you go remote to kind of remote places, deep nature, and on the wells. And if you take it out, that's actually coherent water. But even then, when you take it out, after a very short period of time, water goes back to chaos. So, but what we created, which is really, really peculiar, that's why we're saying that we are serving this water, not the other way around, because we see the profound effects it has on an entire ecosystem, which we're going to touch on that. I mean, it has the main difference that Analemma creates is water never goes out of its stability. We now tested it after just one treatment for 6 consecutive years, and never for a moment the water went back into chaos. So it becomes extraordinarily stable. And that stability has a powerful effect on biology of basically anything that we tested it on.
Okay. And so we would have been drinking, had we been drinking out of creeks all the time, we would have been drinking structured water back in the day.
Yes, back
Okay.
in the day, that's exactly how it was. But now, just so you know, when water needs to move in a natural way, when you move rectangular, like we have all piping systems, it loses vitality exponentially. But not only that, people, when they think about water, they go to the chemical side of things. Okay, let's take out all the pollutants out of it, all the toxins, all the chemicals, but they don't understand the water as a phenomenon. The information of all of those toxins, since water is a broadband absorber, receiver of energy, frequency, and vibration, the information, the frequency of the toxins is still in the water, even if you take the toxin out.
Oh.
And this is exactly where Analemma makes the difference. It cleans the slate and puts the water in its optimum, dominant, positive state. That's why it never goes back. Once, when we realized this about water, our whole quest was to create the most positive, dominant water there is, because we knew if we would expose any other water to it, all of the water would become exactly like it. That's why when we created it, we called it the mother water. And that's why we put it in this crystal vial. Crystal vial just serves as a superconductor. It creates the barrier between the mother water, which is inside the vial, and all the other water. But the key element is it's a superconductor. So it transmits the frequency of the mother water, which is inside. That's why I mentioned when you swirl the analemma through the water, any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to it starts to mimic its exact structure. And it's amazing to observe that.
Yeah.
Because you have this chaotic water, everything is kind of moving all over the place. And as soon as you start swirling, molecules start to connect and everything starts to move in a state of coherence, which is extraordinary. Now you have a harmonic phenomenon within the water. And as I mentioned, when you drink Analemma water, since this is the water in its optimum, most positive dominant state, all of your water molecules start to resonate. And then your entire being enters into a state of coherence. So now is a good time to kind of jump into the first human study, if you agree.
Oh my gosh.
If you have some other questions. Yeah.
No, but
So,
my mind's like because
I mean, really, that's what I'm saying. This is a labor of love. And we had so many, oh my God, moments in it. So we were kind of thinking, what's the most electromagnetic part of our biology? How can we test this water fastest? And we realized it's the brainwaves. So we actually took 2 identical twins. This is the golden standard of the study. We have 2 individuals which are genetically identical. So it was a double-blind study. So the doctor administering the water didn't know which water was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. And we actually put QEEG and we monitored their brainwaves. And I can tell you, almost as soon as the twin that drank Analemma water took a sip, there was an instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, an instant cooling effect on the brainwaves, while the other twin that drank regular water experienced nothing. It really is phenomenal to observe that when you see it just by taking the sip of the water. And then 3 weeks later, we actually repeated the experiment and gave Analemma water to the other twin. And since they're genetically identical, we saw exactly the same phenomenon with the same values, everything's the same, while the first twin drank regular water It was zero. So there was a clear and irrefutable evidence that
But what does
something
that do? Like having that more like between the right and the left hemisphere, why is that a good thing?
coherence. Your entire being enters in a state of coherence. We actually did a study on it was a kind of a pilot thing. We wanted to kind of go one step further. We took one lady that had a severe neurological disorder, and that neurological disorder had to do with brainwaves. We really wanted to see what's going to happen there when really you have an issue there.
Yeah.
And this person had the high delta waves in the awake state. Usually delta waves are in deep sleep. So they're active. And if you have high delta waves while you're awake, that actually causes a lot of problems. And this issue is actually progressive. So it never goes back. It actually increases by time. And after only 2 months of drinking Analemma water, that actually decreased, not only stopped, it actually decreased. So that's the effect, that electromagnetic effect. This is the fastest. This is where Analemma gives you the result like almost in a couple minutes. As soon as you take a sip, something changes. And it's very, very visible and it's very measurable. So it's not like, it really is a phenomenal thing. And we did many studies after that. But this is something that shows you immediate effect on your brainwaves.
Yeah,
And not only that,
yeah.
actually,
Crazy.
this twin study is also phenomenal because we measured also delta coherence. It's something that happens when people enter into state of meditation. So your entire neural network gets connected.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And this is just the beginning. Now we can go into all of the other studies that
What
we
did
did.
they feel? Like, did they know what were they noticing when their
Well,
brain waves were shifting?
this is the thing. If people are conscious, if people are sensitive to the changes, they can sense it immediately. But if people are, let's say, more unaware of what's happening with them, it's a bit harder for them to notice the difference. But that's why we're doing the studies. That's why we're doing all of the data, because the change happens, and it happens on everyone. Now it's just a matter of how sensitive you are and can you perceive it or not. But the change is there.
Yeah, because I've been
So a
using
lot of
it,
people
but
feel it. Some don't. Yeah.
yeah, but I just want like I didn't know any of this. I've been using it, but I didn't know what should I be expecting to feel. And so now I feel like I can tune in more. I am very in tune with my body, so I'll be able to kind of go, "Oh, this is how I'm feeling a little bit different here." Or, if I notice a change in how my emotions are, I would think like if
Most
you're
definitely.
yeah, you would think that you would feel calmer if you're hitting those if you're getting into that meditative state in your brain waves.
Oh, but it's really interesting. Very few, as I mentioned, we received thousands of letters all over the planet. Like people are having various, whenever there's something out of whack, something starts to change. I mean, there's one lady who kind of sent us a letter that she had incredible vivid dreams for 10 days, which she never had in her life. It was like extraordinary. And everything kind of cooled down. It's like you have a buffer, and some things needs to shift. Whatever happens, every individual is different. So water is always going to be react differently for every single person. But the number one thing is that your entire system gets upgraded.
Right.
And then you have this short-term results, long-term results. But I would say that 95% of people, how they immediately see the difference is in the taste. Which is also, I tell this story because I love it. I love Dr. Mindy Pelz. Dr. Mindy Pelz, I'm a
Yeah,
huge
she's a
fan of
friend of
her.
mine. Yeah.
And she's a phenomenal person, and I really adore her. And what's lovely, she has a very accomplished sister. I think she has doctorate from Stanford or something. And anyhow, her sister, they were together in New York, and Mindy was swirling her analemma and drinking the water, and her sister said like, "What this is? Ooh, what is this?" And then Mindy told her, "Let's do a taste test." So it's the same water. We're just going to swirl one. And she did, and every single time, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times in a row, she would immediately say, "Well, this is analemma," which really blew her mind. I mean, how can you just swirl this little thing and the taste of the water changes? So this is something that anybody can kind of do and really, really, really see for yourself. Okay, something happened there. I'm not sure what happened, but this is something that most people, like really most people, can sense almost immediately.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that myself. I can definitely taste it, but you question it. Now I know it's validated.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
like,
I mean,
does
this
this
is not
taste
that
different? I don't
subjective.
know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a subjective thing, but that's why we're doing this science. That's why we're doing this. I always say this. Actually, I invite people. This is something which is you can do, what anybody can do, and you see the results very fast. You take 2 basil plants, okay, and you water one with regular water and one with Analemma water for 3 weeks, and then cut their water supply. You stop watering them, and you can even increase the stressor, increase the heat, or something on both, and then just observe what's going to happen. In 2 days, the one that is watered regular water is just going to shrivel down. And you can see the incredible resilience of plants on NLM water. And if you just take, even after a while, of course, even that one is going to start to wither, but you just give them a couple of drops of NLM water, they jump back. The first time I actually experienced this is I went to my summer house, and I had this beautiful large basil plant, and I was watering with Analemma water for a while, and I had to leave for a week or so. And of course, I didn't water it, and it was really, really hot summer. So usually, all the plants die in that heat. I would say 3 day stops. When I came back after a week, it was as if you haven't seen any change to the plant. It was still vibrant. So this is something that anybody can actually do.
Now
And I
I
can mention, if we're going to have time, we did this very, very, very interesting plant study with basil plants.
yeah.
We really kind of used very, very, very high-tech technology to kind of really measure what's happening in the plant on the molecular level. And we really had extraordinary results with it. So we can maybe touch upon it later.
No, tell us now. You can't just say that. No,
Okay.
tell us.
So what we did, we actually took these plants, we watered some with regular water, some with Analemma water, and we created a short-term drought. Exactly the same thing, but actually we monitored what happened. We we used the latest fluorescence-based technology, where you take the entire plant and put it into it's a high-tech scanner, which takes high-resolution images, and you can actually get a ton of data on what's happening with the plant on a molecular level. So, for instance, we measured how it uses water to cool itself when it's under stress and when there is high heat. We measured how it uses light in the process of photosynthesis, because through the process of photosynthesis, plants actually create food for themselves, especially under stress, how they behave. Then we measured pigments, because the changes in the color, you can very accurately see what's happening with the plant on the deepest level possible, how it changes the color. And in all of these areas, we had more than significant results. So plants, when watered with Analemma water, are exponentially more resilient than when you water them with regular water.
Incredible. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love the
and that
science.
definitely reflects on humans as well, which we can talk about in a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is so woo-woo sounding. When somebody first hears like, oh, you're going to take this wand and just mix it into your water and it becomes this like incredibly powerful water now that you're going to be drinking. Most people, if they just hear that, are going to be like, what are you talking about?
I know.
So the fact that you've done the science, you've done the research, I think is super important so that people can go, oh, this is actually based in science. This isn't woo-woo. I know that there was a study done on glycanage. Is that how you say it?
Like an age, yeah, this was the second human study that we did. What I love about glycan age measures biological age, but it's more than that. Actually, what I love about this study is that through the state of glycans, you can very accurately see what is your overall state of health and wellness. So through the state of glycans, you can see what's the state of your immune system. That's number one. And number two, since you have this pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory glycans, you can see what's the state of overall inflammation in your body. We all know that systemic low-grade inflammation is the key cause of various kind of most chronic diseases.
Yeah.
So what they actually do is take all of this data and actually give you what is your biological age. Mm-hmm. So in contrast to your chronological age, it tells you how old you actually biologically are. So what we did, we actually took the quote unquote snapshot of glycans and biological age of participants in the study. And all of the people in the study drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in their life. So they didn't change their diets, they didn't change their exercise regime, they didn't change anything. The only thing that changed in their life is the water they drank. And after 3 months, we did the following test to see whether something happened. And the results were phenomenal. Like almost every single person in the study experienced between 1 and 12 years of biological age regeneration. So their whole body got regenerated on the cellular level. Now that has a profound effect because the state of glycans can actually tell you what kind of disease you're going to contrive 5 years, 10 years from now. So it really, when you change that and in that short period of time, that tells you that your biology is changing in a powerful way. So this is really something I love that you mentioned. This study it was actually the second human study that we did, and it was really remarkable. It actually inspired us to go much deeper. Now I can actually mention our third study.
Okay.
Yeah. So we realized that, as I mentioned, water is the most fundamental level of our existence, and we realized that the next is our microbiome, and the next one are our mitochondria. So what we wanted to see is what's going to happen with our microbiome when people drink this water. We were very inspired, just so you know, just to make one step back, how we actually even came to it. Since we are actually using this water to change the whole agriculture game. Why? Because due to toxins, glyphosate, and all that, it really is appalling how we're growing food. Yeah. So what we did is actually we took a completely destroyed piece of soil, piece of land that was completely barren. You couldn't grow anything on it. And we watered one chunk with regular water, one chunk with Analemma water. And the part that was watered with regular water, basically nothing happened. The land stayed dead. But within only 2 months of watering that same soil with Analemma water, there was a huge explosion in the biodiversity of the microbiome of the soil. So much so that the bacteria in the soil started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belongs. The whole nitrogen cycle of the soil changed. Total nitrogen in soil changed, so much so that within only 2 months, that land became fertile. Okay, so to make a connection, then we want to see, okay, let's see what's going to happen with humans when they drink Analemma water. It was a double-blind placebo-controlled study where, again, we measured the dysbiosis index of the microbiome. So this dysbiosis index describes the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the bacteriophyla and species and their weighing factor. So again, we took a snapshot of the microbiome of participants of the study. They drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. And then after 2 months, we did another snapshot to see what's going to happen. And after 2 months, we saw 17% improvement on the dysbiosis index over the placebo. Why is this? I know that you had various microbiome specialists coming to your podcast, which explain the extraordinary importance of microbiome. When your microbiome changes, everything changes. We're not talking about just immune health. We're not talking about digestive health. Every single part of your health changes for the better when your microbiome changes. Yeah. And I'm pretty confident you mentioned this in your podcast as well. But if some people didn't hear about it, everybody heard about serotonin. 95% of serotonin, which is a powerful mood booster, is created in the gut. Yeah. Our microbiome creates it, and it's being delivered through our brain, through the gut-brain axis. So the state of our microbiome influences our neural pathways. It influences how we feel, how we perceive ourselves, how we think. So it really is extraordinarily important, not to geek out on the microbiome, because I love the whole science.
Do you think that's how it affects the brain waves?
Yes.
Because it's affecting gut microbiome, is that how maybe?
We realize that it actually happens much faster. So the water directly influences, because it needs time to kind of enter, and then, so the whole thing, all of this happens in a while. But as soon as you take a drink, since we're electromagnetic being, the shift happens immediately. So it has a short-term effect, positive, and it has a long-term positive effect. And both are actually very measurable. Right. So this was the study that kind of proved that something really remarkable happens with your microbiome just by drinking the water. Now I'm going to jump into the thing that I mentioned, the third most fundamental level of our existence. I mentioned mitochondria. Yeah. So we decided to measure ATP. So ATP, adenosine triphosphate, it's the primary energy currency of the cell. It's directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes inside the body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions. Every breath, every heartbeat depends on ATP. Without it, we're not living. Anything is not living without ATP. So we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured what's going to happen with ATP levels when people drink Analemma water. So again, we actually employed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes like production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can very accurately measure ATP levels in humans. So we used a method that is really, really, really accurate. So we took a snapshot of ATP levels in participants of the study, as I mentioned, double-blind placebo-controlled study. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water for 2 months without changing anything else in their world. Then we took another one. And we had 20% rise in ATP levels over the placebo. When you take the placebo in, which is 7%, we're talking about 27% rise in ATP. We're talking about almost a third of your entire energy. And we're not talking about Red Bull energy. We're talking about actual molecular mitochondrial energy just by drinking the water. Now, isn't that special?
It is. Yeah.
And implications of that are really kind of, people always kind
huge.
of ATP with kind of muscles, with kind of physical endurance, and there is a great deal there. No worries. I mean, a lesser known thing is that it actually ATP helps with the skin regeneration, with wound healing, because it actually helps to lower inflammation in our skin. But that's another thing. You know what? Who is the biggest spender? Which organ is the biggest spender of ATP in our body?
Our brain, isn't it?
Yes, 25% of our entire energy, actually, energy expenditure, energy storage goes. So brain spends 25% of ATP. For one neuron to send an impulse to a neighboring cell, it needs to hydrolyze 1 billion of ATP molecules.
Wow.
And there are billions of neurons.
Right.
So high ATP levels are connected with strong cognitive performance as well. So when you have high ATP levels, basically everything in your body changes.
It's just right. But if we're going back to Mother Nature, which is so important, I think we get so lost in doing all of these things that we think, are doing us justice. Like, oh, let's take all the supplements. Let's have all these gizmos and gadgets and do this and do that and eat this way. And it's like, let's get back to the foundational pieces, which is just simply improving the water that we're drinking. Like that's so important, because the waterfall effect of what you're talking about, if your mitochondria improves, that's your energy is going to improve, your brain's going to improve. If your microbiome improves, your immune system, your hormones, and we talk so much about hormones, and all of these things impact our hormones. And so I think that that's something that everybody should be doing, because it's a foundational piece that is easy enough to do, and it's so powerful what you're going to get from it.
I agree 100%. I have to say one more thing. All the scientists now agree that the key cause of cellular aging is a decline in mitochondrial function. We actually proved with this study that you have an increase in mitochondrial function. And why is this important? I know that you're talking about weight loss and hormones and everything. So the key fuel of our body is fats and sugar. And if our mitochondria are doing their job right, which is to turn fats and sugar into energy, then you're not having problem with weight. So when you upgrade your entire mitochondrial function, then your body starts to turn fats and sugar into energy.
Rather than storing it.
Exactly.
On your butt.
Or anywhere. This is the thing. You're actually upgrading your system so it starts to run much better. We haven't done any weight loss studies, so I don't want to kind of make any claims in that area. But what we can definitely state is that your mitochondrial function is going to improve really significantly.
Have you had people write in to talk about things that have happened with their weight or their hormones by using it?
As I mentioned, thousands of letters, and people are having all kinds of results. So we are not talking about this is one area. That's why I mentioned when you change the most fundamental level of your existence, then your entire biology changes. Everything kind of shifts and starts moving in the right direction. But, I always like to stick with hardcore science. And unlike a testimonial, I respect every testimonial. We're really getting a lot of them. But I always like to stick to hardcore science so that it's not only validated scientifically, that it's very repeatable.
Right.
So then you know that that you are actually getting the result.
Wow. So it comes as a wand. Talk about how we are to use it. How do we structure water with it? How long do we have to stir the water for?
So this is the first thing that we actually came up with, the wand. So you just pour the water in a glass. And if it's like 3 deciliters a glass, you just swirl for 20 to 30 seconds. 20 to 30 seconds just to be 100% sure that all of the water inside your glass is now in a coherent state. Now it's identical to the mother water which is inside the vial. And then you drink it. For a larger quantities of water, you have to swirl longer. We actually came out with whole house Analemma pretty recently. You can install it in the piping system of your house, then all of the water inside of your house is in a coherent state. You don't need to swirl anymore. It actually brings me to an extraordinary study that we are in the middle of right now. Skin is our largest body organ. And we were kind of thinking, what's going to happen since, as I mentioned, 99% of our molecules are water. And water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. So we were thinking, what's going to happen if people will lay down in Analemma water for 20 minutes? And we actually hooked up with the Hydrate lab in America, Dr. Greg Lane. He has all kinds of equipment. He measures before and after. And people were just taking, we're now doing a 100 people study. They just took a bath in Analemma water, 20 to 30 minutes. And the results are phenomenal. Cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, heart rate variability improves just within 20 to 30 minutes. And not only that, it actually stays. It doesn't go back. So we were hugely excited about that study. So, and this is the simple way. It's very kind of hard. I mean, it's doable to swirl around your bathtub.
I'm just imagining myself doing that with my wand. I'm like, is that going to work?
But you know, then you can just buy the whole house system. But even if you don't, what I always suggest to people, when you're filling your bathtub, just put the stream of the water underneath the wand.
Right.
It will take some time, but then entire bathtub will be filled with the same water. So you don't have to buy the system. It's a bit more expensive than the wand. But if you can afford it, it's the best solution. Then you don't have to think about anything. You just install it, and then all of the water inside of your house is in that state. But this is really something extraordinary. We are actually going to do studies with athletes now to see what's going to happen with athletic performance when people take baths, because all the athletes do these cold plunges and everything. And now we're actually going to see this huge plus element that can really elevate. And you know, in the professional athlete arena, we were talking about 1 second, or not second, one kind of 100th of a second makes the difference between being number one or being 17.
Right.
So this is just something peculiar. We are more focused on health and wellness, but we are going to do this athlete study just because it's interesting.
Oh, and I bet they'll get much better results because of
so
many things.
Hypothesize, as I mentioned, I always stick to for science, and we have to have the results before and after. But we definitely can. We really believe that we can have awesome results there.
If you structure water in a glass, if you poured that into a jug of water, will that water structure the water, or do you have to still structure it?
No, you can do that, and it will definitely have an effect, no question about it. But we always say, like, swirl it, just so you're 100% sure that you're not missing out, or that the result is half and half or whatever. We always say, if you have your wand, just swirl it.
Just do it.
And then you're kind of 100% sure. But yeah, most definitely, it should definitely work.
And so, and if we're, taking water from a tap or from a cooler or something, you could just put the wand underneath the tap as you're filling up and then give it a little swirl. Like that would make it even more.
You don't even need to swirl after that. If the water is flowing over the wand.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything more. It will take some time till you fill it, but since the water is flowing over it, as I mentioned, it just needs to kind of, any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water, it will start to mimic its exact structure immediately. This is something that happens really fast. That's why you only need 20 seconds for 3 deciliter glass. That's it.
And will it help the body to absorb the water better?
This is also very interesting. We're now doing studies since we realized that plants actually need much less water when you water with Analemma water. The whole system gets improved it becomes extraordinary in using the water. This is that I mentioned on basal plants. Now we're actually doing a study where we are measuring the nutrient density, we're measuring shelf life, so many details, and I will definitely it will take some time to complete that study, but we are so excited about the results because all of the plant studies that we did up until now were really remarkable. So we're really looking forward to that. We want to change the whole agriculture game, as I mentioned. How we grow food on this planet is appalling, and we need to have high quality food again on this planet. So when you buy whatever you buy, it's really an oxymoron when you go to a supermarket and you have healthy food department.
Oh,
What about the rest?
yeah. I'm just gonna head over here to
Kind
the crappy food department.
feel like weird. We don't want it that way. We want all food to be vibrationally. As I mentioned, we already proved that this is what we did, biophoton emissions on tomatoes. We compared the tomatoes that were grown with Analemma water and regular water. And our tomatoes actually exude 60 to 200% more light than regular ones. And this is pure energy. This is vitality. This is life. And when you eat that food, all that energy it all ends up in your cells. And you truly feel replenished. You actually get all the nutrients that you need. So it's something completely different. As I mentioned, it's the fundamental level of existence. When you change that, all biological systems change.
Do you guys have anything that you can put onto your hose at the end of the hose so you're watering your garden? Or
Yes.
I'm thinking about my hot tub, because I fill up my hot tub and I soak in that every day. So I would love to use it.
Just about to launch. I thank you that you're awesome. We're about to launch a garden analemma because a lot of people grow their own food. And with this water, you are actually going to grow the best food, the best produce you can imagine. So we created something exactly like you mentioned to put it on a piping system of a hose or whatever, and you water your plants, your fruits and veggies with Analemma water. So we haven't launched it yet. So hopefully next year, we're going to launch it, and anybody can then purchase garden Analemma as well, and you can grow your own food.
Can I get in on a pre-sale?
Of course.
Give me a prototype, maybe.
Extraordinary. We really expect people to get on it because we really have powerful plant data. If you use this, your food is going to really be exponentially better than when you just water regular water. There is a huge difference. That's why I'm so excited we're doing this study, remeasuring nutrient density, shelf life. Shelf life is extraordinarily important because it tells you it stays fresh much longer.
Yeah.
It has more life to it.
I'm going to start using it to fill my dog's water bowl up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you said that there were some animal
well.
studies. What did the animal studies, what did that show?
You know what's a beautiful thing with animals? They don't have placebo.
Right.
So it's not like, okay, I believe this, I don't believe this, maybe this, I kind of convince myself, or you don't convince yourself. If it works, it works. You know, Dr. Larker is actually a veterinarian. He has a human clinic, and he really has like 30 years experience. Has his clinic in the Netherlands. He really helped thousands of animals and people because he's really a visionary in that field. So anyhow, there is one, it's really an interesting anecdote. This friend of his had, I think it was a pig farm, I'm not sure. They had huge issues with animal health, really big issues with animal health. And they couldn't solve it even in conventional way, through medicines or whatever, just couldn't solve it. And this person asked Eric, okay, can you give me something? And he just gave him the wand, nothing more. And he used all of the water that fed to the animals, used only that wand. And after 1 month, all the sicknesses went out of the stable.
You're kidding.
1 month. And there are a gazillion other, we're actually doing also many studies on biological age of animals as well, because, people want their animals, their pets to live longer. We already proved that a biological age of humans changes when you drink the water. It's basically the same with animals, but we're doing animal specific study as well. And we're going to come up with that result as well.
So where can people get that? Because everybody's going to be going, oh my gosh, get me one of these. I've been using mine for months now. So I'm very pleased. And I'm going to be even more on top of it now that I know all of this information. So no, I will not be drinking any more water without
And you know what
swirling
I
it
love?
first.
You know what I love about this? Since water, all the ancient spiritual traditions, they always had this connection with water. They always kind of water, because water changes. That's why I love this whole ritual where you're swirling your water. You can actually be present with it, and it changes in a powerful way, and then you drink it. So it has so many kind of elements to it. Which I love. Anyhow, to come back to your question, so people can go to coherent-water.com. So coherent-water.com. They can purchase there are various applications now. In a month or so, we're here in Analemma, we have whole house Analemma, we have regular Analemma. In a couple of months, we're actually going to have a pitcher, so you don't even have to swirl. You just pour the water in, but it will take some time for that to come. I encourage people to jump on our newsletter, because we're constantly doing new studies.
Yeah.
So if you want to follow our science, just jump on the newsletter, and we are actually sending it regularly to inform the people on what we are actually doing. And we are constantly going in various directions, because I'm telling you, we barely scratched the surface of the beauty of this water. There are so many avenues to go. Actually, we talked with Dr. Mindy Peltz to do a hormone study as well, and the fasting study, and doing all kinds of things. So, really, it's an incredible thing. And just so you know, the mission statement of our company is to make all the bodies of water on this planet coherent again.
Yeah.
Because then because we're living in a water planet, then the entire planet will enter into the state of coherence, and everything would change. We created already this eco-friendly technology. We want to bring it to governmental level, to install it in the wells of the biggest rivers, because then the frequency, everything would change down the stream, and all that water will enter into oceans. Then oceans will become coherent, and then the entire planet will start to vibrate in unity. This is what we want. And we know that it will have a profound effect on how we live life on this planet. This is where we want to go.
Yeah. No small feat, but
yeah. I know it's not like a whole order.
I appreciate it though, Mario.
This is where we want to go. And you know what would be amazing? I really love that idea, and I really hope we're going to reach it soon. If we go to, for instance, a mayor of New York City, and we actually bring it to municipal water, and because this is extraordinarily resilient water, we tested it. Even if it passes through the whole piping system of the city, it will remain in that coherent state. And then you can just open your faucet, and you can get pure, coherent, natural water in your home.
And nothing will unstructure it? Like, what if I put electrolytes in my water after I've structured it?
No, this is the thing. This is what I love. We actually did all kinds of things to it. Just to see whether it will go out of the states. We radiated it. We did all kinds of things to be, because usually, just so you know, if you take regular water and put it next to a Wi-Fi router, it will go deep into chaos, much deeper. But with Analemma water, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. it stays in this very particular state. It's very, very resilient. That's where it's special. I mean, there are several kind of scientists on the planet that created some form of structured water with vortexes, magnets, crystals, and all that works. We actually tested it. So it does bring water in coherent state, but water stays in coherent state between minute and a half and day and a half tops.
Oh.
Then water molecules break and the water goes back into chaos. And as I mentioned, the main difference is that Analemma Water, with just one treatment, we tested it now for 6 consecutive years. It never went out of the state of coherence. It just stays very, very stable.
Because of how it's like what it's being made of and the water that's in it?
For us to create it. It takes 5 stages. Water needs to pass through the 5 stages, and once it passes the final one, it never goes back. It just remains in this very special state. That's why it's so special.
And that's how
And
you
that's
guys,
why we feel that we're serving it, not the other way around. Not the
right?
other.
How did you guys figure this out? I mean, that's probably a whole nother podcast in and of itself, but it's just like, how did you come up with all of that and figure out, okay, we've got to do 5 stages. We've got to,
It really is. It really is a
it's
peculiar.
mind-boggling.
It's really mind-boggling thing. But that's why we say we cannot. But none of us in the team are actually taking ownership of it.
Right.
That's why I mentioned we feel that Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project. It actually needed to come through.
Yes. I was
We
going to
were
say
open
that.
enough, and it came through us. So that's why we feel that we're stewards of this water. It actually belongs to the world, and that's why I'm doing these podcasts very, very, very often, and I want to do it, and I'm going to do it like forever because I want to inform people so that everyone gets the benefit. This water came to make a change. So I'm doing anything that I can to bring the message out in a powerful way so that people can feel it, so they know there is something amazing here. And anybody gets benefit. And I want to emphasize one other thing. We knew that we could price the whole thing much higher. Even though it really isn't expensive for us to create it, but we wanted to price it in a way that almost any single family on the planet can afford it. And if you take care of it, it's a jewel. If you take care of it, it will create a coherent life. Just be careful with it, because if it falls, it will break.
Yeah.
So if you take care of it, if you keep it intact, you don't have to buy another.
Right.
It's for life, which is really amazing.
It is. You know, we're on Zoom. You are in Croatia.
Yeah.
But I feel your energy, Mario. Like you just keep giving me shivers. You're bringing tears to my eyes. Like your passion is real. Your energy is beautiful. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate that you are spreading the word about this because it's clearly something really important. And I just thank you. I thank you for coming and sharing this with my audience and sharing it with me. And I'm so happy that I have one.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being the beacon of light. This is what we need, so that we're all connected and we share the relevant information in this very particular time in the planet's history. I believe, people are kind of thinking that okay, these crazy things are happening, but I truly believe that we are about to have the biggest flowering of human consciousness on the planet, and I really believe that we're just passing through a tunnel, and there's ordinary beauty at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel that too. Definitely. And for all of the listeners, we've got a 10% discount on your Analemma, and it is KM, capital KM 10 for 10% off your wand or whatever you want, I guess, in the shop. So, yeah. And
Please.
I'm looking forward to getting the attachment to the hose, the jug, or
Yeah.
maybe even the whole house system. Can you move the whole house system if you leave your house?
Yeah. You
Okay.
just take it's a press fitting system, so you just take it off and you take it with you wherever you go. And it's
Okay.
very sturdy. We develop it in a way that it is really sturdy. So you just install it and you don't have to think about it. And wherever you go, you just take it out, install it somewhere else. So it follows wherever you go.
Perfect. Okay. And I'll put everything in the show notes, you guys, as usual, so you can know exactly where to go and buy it with the coupon code. And I guess like write in, you guys take in the testimonials, and I'm sure you'd want to keep that coming. So if people have things to report, let me know about it. Let Mario's team know about it, because it's always exciting to hear reviews. I think even if you don't want to talk about them, you want to go with the science, but I like hearing people's reviews.
Of course. But because people are kind of, it's any kind of new thing, people get skeptical about it. That's
Oh,
why we're
100%.
investing so much into hardcore science. But as I mentioned, we're receiving thousands of letters from people having such remarkable changes in their lives that you can only cry. You can just be grateful that you're part of the project and to do whatever you can do to kind of move it forward, to kind of so that anybody can kind of get the message. And if they resonate with it, if they feel, then they buy, and then they get the result. And that's the only thing that we actually want. And as I mentioned, our whole thing is to change the entire planet, to change
That's all.
the bodies of water on the state of coherence. It's not good for our business model, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're going to have a beautiful, coherent planet
Earth.
because we are part of the planet. We are part of the planet. Planet Earth is a living organism, and we are part of it.
You need to write a book. Have you written a book yet?
Not yet.
That's coming, isn't it? I feel it. And in that book, you will sprinkle the entire thing with those letters from your clients that are your consumers. I think that that's how you share those, is you share them throughout a book while you talk about the passion for water and what it can do in structured water. Because this is really interesting stuff. I would get the book, I would read it, and I would love to read these letters that have come through talking about what that water's done for people.
Yes, I'm hugely excited to
put that on your agenda.
Tell this so the people can share their experience, because as I mentioned, well, we are like a columns of water which are oscillating, vibrating with energy of life. And when you change that, everyone becomes not just a receiver, but a transmitter. So every single person becomes a beacon.
Yep.
And that's how you change the world, one person at a time.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your passion.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really looking forward. We're going to have loads of new science coming up, so maybe we can do this kind of
again.
every
Absolutely. Yes, I look forward to it.
Thank you.